Welcome back, students. Students, today we are going to look at a comparative study of metals and non-metals. Well, you have already seen the differences in physical properties of metals and non-metals. Here I am going to just summarize all the physical properties and we will see how are they different from metals and non-metals. This lesson is particularly going to be really useful for you for the revision purpose of differences between metals and non-metals. So let's begin. Well, to begin with, we see here that metals and non-metals, they can be differentiated with their first physical property as metals are malleable and ductile. We have learned that metals are malleable and ductile. They can be converted into thin sheets and wires. Next to this, if we talk about non-metals, they are neither malleable nor ductile. They are rather brittle. So if you try to hammer them, they will simply break into pieces. Easy? Next difference is that metals here are good conductors of heat and electricity. Whereas, if we talk about non-metals, they are poor conductors of heat and electricity. Although, there is an exception which is graphite. Graphite is a form of carbon which is considered to be a good conductor of heat and electricity. Okay, so don't forget the exceptions. Third difference is that metals are lustrous. Yes, they have a very beautiful shine on them. Whereas, if we talk about non-metals, they are not lustrous or shiny. They are usually dull. An exception can be graphite again, which has somewhat some shine on it. Similarly, iodine also has some shine on it. So these two can be exceptions to the luster property. After this, we will speak about the fourth property, which is metals are strong. They have high tensile strength. I told you already that metals are strong. That is why they are used to build those high bridges, those strong crane machines, the railway tracks, etc. On the other hand, we see that non-metals are not strong. They have a low tensile strength. Well, an exception to these. We see that metals are strong usually, but we have metals like sodium and potassium which are not very strong. They are soft in nature. Similarly, if you talk about non-metals, diamond is the hardest substance known, which is a form of carbon again. So don't forget about the exceptions. Fine? Okay. Moving forward, the fifth point. Metals are sonorous. Well, we know, you remember the temple bell, right? Yes, so they make a ringing sound when struck. Then we have non-metals which are not sonorous. They do not make a ringing sound when you strike them. Okay. Next to this, talking about the next property here, we have metals are generally hard. Like I told you, they are strong. We can say metals are generally hard. Then we have non-metals which are, if you talk about, let's say, solid non-metals, they are quite soft. Again, we see that metals are generally hard, but metals like sodium and potassium are soft. We have mercury, which is a liquid, so these are not hard. Coming back to non-metals, here we see that solid non-metal, again, such as a diamond is really hard, right? So talking next, we have metals which are mostly solids and non-metals which can be solid, liquid or gases. Again, I repeat, an exception to solids. We have mercury, which is a metal, but it's a liquid. So this was a quick revision to all the physical properties that we have learnt in detail. Now it's time for practice. Ready? Great. First question we have is, if iron is a soft metal, true or false? If iron is soft? No. Iron is a hard metal, right? Then we have next question as, non-metals are lustrous, which means that they have a very beautiful shine. Do they have it? No. Most of the non-metals are non-lustrous. So always remember, students, if they ask you about a general question, then don't think about an exception because they are mostly asking a general question. Most of the non-metals are non-lustrous. Maybe one is, but that will not be counted here. Okay, so keep this in mind. Next, we have copper wires are used in electric appliances. Is it true or false? Copper wire are used in electric appliances. Well, you get such questions, students, to first understand that if you know what is the requirement of an electric appliance, the requirement here is that if something will conduct electricity, that only we will put in the electric appliance, correct? That kind of wires will only be used. So now the question arises, if copper wires can conduct electricity or not? Well, they certainly can. Why? Because they are metals. Hence, this is true. Got this? Easy, huh? Next, we have carbon can be beaten into thin sheets. True or false? Now, can be beaten into thin sheets means they are talking about a particular property. Can you recognize that? Great. Yes, it is malleability, which means they're asking if carbon is malleable or not. Now, to understand this, you must remember that carbon is a metal or a non-metal. And carbon is a, yes, non-metal. So we know that non-metals are non-malleable, which means they cannot be beaten into thin sheets, which means that this is false. So I am trying to give you a number of questions here, students, so that you know what is the approach to them. Next, we have oxygen and hydrogen are gaseous non-metals. Well, we certainly know about oxygen here, and hence we can take a guess for hydrogen too. So hydrogen and oxygen are both gaseous non-metals, which means this is true. So here we have understood and summarized the differences between metals and non-metals. Now you know what kind of questions can be asked and you know the reasoning behind.